Good morning, everybody. It's a little slow. Good morning this morning. Good morning if you are joining us in person. We're glad that you are here in this room with us. If you're online, we're glad you're joining us that way as well. Just a couple of things to make you aware of, if you aren't already aware of. Tuesday nights this month are fireside chats. At the Hairbolt's house. We gather around a fire, we have some s'mores or some snacks, and we just talk. So about anything and everything. So super casual. Join us if you can. 7:15 on Tuesday night. That info is in your Church Center app. Also, branch students, you all have a beach day coming up. August 11, you're going to go right after worship. You're going to have lunch and head to the beach. So you can also sign up for that in your Church Center app, or there's a QR code that'll take you to that up there. Also, if you do have that Church Center app, we added a calendar feature this week. So if you click on that calendar, you'll see everything that's happening in the life of the branch, whether or not it's something to sign up for or just Sunday morning worship or those regular events that happen as well. So just a way to keep all of the things that are happening in front of you in an easy, organized space. Okay? That's what's happening this summer. It is a lovely, slower paced kind of summer. So let's stand up. If we're in the room, stand up and go say hello to somebody you don't know or haven't seen in a while. If you're online, we'd love to hear from you as well. So say hello wherever you are.
The sun will rise, the sun will rise, bringing life to the earth as it springs from the ground. The sun will rise, the sun will rise. Won't you dry all your tears, lay your burden down. Won't you dry all your tears, lay your burden down.
All right, everybody, why don't we grab a seat? Thanks, sir. Welcome. Glad you had a chance to catch up. Maybe say hello to someone you haven't seen in a while or someone you don't know even. We're glad you're here this morning. We're in a series this summer, for the remainder of the summer, called Our Story, which is an invitation we're extending to all of us, really, to think about our story. And we tend to minimize our own stories. Our culture certainly elevates certain stories and loves to celebrate certain types of stories. But we're contending to you that your story matters, and that who you are and the life that you're living matters. And so that's part of what we're doing for the rest of the summer, is inviting you to maybe rethink your own story. And we're also inviting some people to share their story, or at least parts of their story. And we'll do that here in a moment. But today I want to invite us to be thinking about ways in which our own story is shaped by those times when we find ourselves outside of our comfort zone. When we find ourselves in situations in which maybe we are uncomfortable or in unfamiliar situations, and the ways in which, again, those moments of being outside of our comfort zone shape us and mold us into the people that we are. And to get us maybe thinking about that a little bit, I want to show a clip from a movie you might recognize.
Right then, first years, this way, please. Come on now, first years, don't be shy. Come on now, hurry up. On. Hello, Harry.
Hi, Hagrid. Whoa!
Right then, this way to the boats. Come on now, follow me.
So first of all, that clip may make you feel old. Yes? Anyone? That's 20 years old, that movie. But I wanted to show it because I wanted to kind of highlight the way in which, being outside of your comfort zone isn't always a bad thing. I think it often carries negative connotations with it, but here these kids are outside of their comfort zone in a new place, and it invokes wonder and awe. And so that dynamic is there as well when we find ourselves in situations where we're not comfortable, where things are unfamiliar. It shapes us. This happens all the time in the scriptures as well. There's a story I want to draw our attention to this morning. It's from John 4, and it's a story I've preached on a lot here, but let's read it kind of piece by piece here. We're not going to read the whole thing. But when Jesus learned that the Pharisees had heard Jesus is making and baptizing more disciples than John, although it was not Jesus himself, but his disciples who were baptized, he left Judea. There's the key sentence. He left Judea and started back to Galilee, but he had to go through Samaria. Samaria, Samaritans. You've probably heard this word before, right? If you're a Jewish person living in Jesus' time, you did not associate yourself with Samaritans. Samaritans were long-lost, distant relatives of yours. You had the same ancient lineage, but at one point, Samaritans went this way and Jews kind of went this way, and they ended up having a great deal of animosity between them. And so the text here says that he had to go through Samaria. Well, we know from archaeology and other studies of this time in this part of the land that it wasn't as if there was one road only that went from Judea to Galilee. There were multiple routes, and some of those routes allowed you to avoid Samaria. So you might read the text and think, oh, Jesus had no choice. There was only one road. He had to go through Samaria. That's very unlikely. So what does the text mean that he had to go through? Let's read on. So he came to a Samaritan city called Sychar near the plot of ground that Jacob had given to his son Joseph. This is the Jacob of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the Jacob of the Old Testament, the Jacob who gets renamed Israel. So this is like ancient core stuff. Jesus is in a place that matters greatly. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired out by his journey, was sitting by the well. It was about noon. And a Samaritan woman came to draw water, and Jesus said to her, "Give me a drink." His disciples had gone to the city to buy food. So the disciples have gone out, they're away getting lunch. Jesus stays at the well, and a woman comes, a Samaritan woman, and Jesus ends up having a long conversation with her. We're not going to read that part here today. And to us, that may not seem all that strange. Well, look at what happens when the disciples come back. Just then his disciples came, and they were astonished that he was speaking with a woman. A Samaritan woman is also the subtext here. But no one said anything like, "What do you want?" or "Why are you speaking with her?" So they're astonished that this is happening. Astonishment might give the implication that they're, I don't know, wow, this is amazing. And maybe there was some of that. But I suspect that at least among some of them, there was some serious concern. That Jesus is talking to a woman. You did not do that, number one. A Jewish man talking with a Samaritan woman. That was just a cultural taboo, and let alone, again, a Samaritan woman. Jesus does it anyway. His disciples are astonished. And then this happens. Many Samaritans from that city believed in Jesus because of the woman's testimony. She ends up running back to town and telling everybody what's happened. He told me everything I've ever done. So when the Samaritans came to him, they asked him to stay with them, and he stayed there 2 days. That's a little tidbit that I often fly right by. Jesus and his disciples stay in this Samaritan village for 2 days. You did not go through Samaria. And if you went through Samaria, you did not stop and talk to a Samaritan. And if a Samaritan invited you to stay in their home, you did not say yes, let alone for 2 days. This is a very out of the box, out of the comfort zone, unusual, unfamiliar place for the disciples to be. And just a reminder, going back to the way the story begins, of Jesus had to go through Samaria, the text says. Why? I don't know for sure, but I wonder if Jesus isn't kind of compelled to go through Samaria in order to place the disciples in a place of unfamiliarity. Because it's when we are in places out of our comfort zone, I think that we most often have the chance for change. When you're in a place that you're comfortable, there's no need to change. There's no need to rethink anything. Everything is quite comfortable. But when we find ourselves in unfamiliar places, even like Harry Potter, places of awe and wonder, but that are new and unfamiliar. It shakes us loose a little bit. It can waken us up. And I wonder if that isn't what's happening here. So here's a couple questions I want to invite you to think about this morning. When have I stepped out of my comfort zone, or what is one thing I took from that experience? And the first question maybe isn't the best question as I read it now, because it may imply that you chose to step out of it. And often I think we find ourselves in unfamiliar places, not so much by choice. And listen, we've talked kind of about travel here, travel to Samaria, travel to Hogwarts. This can happen without going anywhere physically different. A new neighbor moves into the neighborhood, and they are very different than you in whatever way. And it is a little jarring, because what was comfortable and known is now not anymore. Or you get a new boss in your department. You liked your old boss, you knew your old boss, it was comfortable, and now it's not, right? So let's just think about this here for a moment, and then I'm going to invite you to, if you'd be willing, for some folks to share what comes to mind. But let's take a couple minutes to just reflect on these questions here. I wish somehow we could provide just a way for everyone to travel abroad. changes you. But we don't have to travel the world. We can pick up a paddle and step into a new space that way too. Anybody else? Can you say that again? Oh yeah, I saw that. You acted in a film, right? This was just like last week? Did this just happen? Yeah? Oh, a few months ago. Okay. Yeah, getting past the stage fright. Absolutely. Yeah, stepping into unfamiliar spaces can feel really scary because they're unfamiliar. And none of this is like surprising. I don't think the things we're talking about this morning, we've all experienced them. But thanks, Gavin. Right. Yeah, thanks, Dale. Being at the same church for 35 years, having a level of comfort, I imagine, with that group of people, knowing the way that things work, knowing the order of things, and then coming to a new place. Yeah. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, Deidre's a business owner, and you're saying as business slows down and you don't have work for employees, that's unfamiliar, uncomfortable. Thanks. Lucas, did I see your hand up? So today, yes, is a day of being out of what's familiar. Yeah. Glad you're here. It's good to see you. We all have these experiences. No one goes through life and somehow escapes being in unfamiliar spaces. I think the question I'm going to invite you to keep thinking about this morning is, what do we do when we find ourselves there? It's probably a fairly decent introduction to the person who's going to share their story today. So Audri, why don't you come on up? Let's welcome her with a little bit of applause to kind of help her know that, hey, we appreciate you. So with all these stories, of the people who are sharing, we're not covering their whole story. Of course, that's not a possibility one morning. What we're doing for you today is sharing a particular, really a number of stories, but the most recent one, which just happened a couple of weeks ago. So you, like Katie shared, have done some travel, right? Yes. So tell us where you were just a couple of weeks ago. And you're not traveling alone. It's not as if it's you. How many people are with you?
This trip we had 20 people. It normally ranges from like 13 to 26.
Okay. And the folks who are traveling from the States are not, well, tell us about who are they and why are they going on this trip?
So everyone that goes on the trip has to be a sponsor of a mama for at least a year. We're from all over the States, and there's only one staff member that lives in the States. The rest are on the ground in Uganda because they have the best connections with the women we work with. And so the one in the States really only facilitates the team and, yeah. Advocation.
So most of the staff of Heal Thrive Global is in Uganda. They are Ugandans, with the exception of one person here in the States. But you said sponsor a mama. I think you probably need to tell us a little bit about what that means. It's a great phrase, but say a little bit more about that.
So the company supports single women, especially single mothers. So a lot of these mothers never had the chance to go to school, or if they did, they only went for a couple of days or a couple of years. And now they're left alone to raise, 4 to 11 children on their own in a place that they might not be able to do simple math to not get ripped off in the markets, or they might not be able to write their names, so they might not be able to be a congresswoman. So really just providing education, empowerment, and a lot of community.
Yeah. So Heal Thrive Global empowers women, really exclusively, right? In a variety of ways, some of which you've already said. But let's talk about some of those ways a little bit more. Because every organization, I think, that's trying to do good work has to decide what it's going to focus on. It can't do everything. So what does Heal Thrive Global do? What are its focuses?
So we focus on our trips. We focus on empowerment, but the main goals are community, and then we also work to sponsor wells, and the biggest thing is literacy centers.
Okay. Wells, let's maybe show a few pictures from those things. Yes. So
Sure.
while you were there, some wells opened up. Is that right?
Yeah, we got to open, I think it was 11 wells.
And we know, I think, intellectually what it means to have water running from your tap, but we don't know. It's so normal for us, right? Tell us about what it's like to get water for the people in most of these places.
So getting clean water isn't only getting clean water, it's also getting water closer to home. So a lot of these women are cutting down a lot of time walking for water. So not only are they cutting out typhoid and disease from drinking dirty water, but they're also cutting out a lot of violence in their homes. They're allowing their children to focus on school because they don't have to do housework. They have more time to focus on their businesses and raise their children.
Some people are walking for miles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And sometimes multiple times a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of the time, multiple
Yeah.
times a day. So, yeah.
I think one thing that this picture shows, I don't know if you can quite see it in the resolution on our screens, but there's water being splashed at you or you're splashing water. I don't know if you're the mischievous one here, but there's also a lot of joy in this photograph, and I think we're going to see that repeatedly. What's it like to be at one of these well opening ceremonies?
It's just joy. Everything is so full of joy. It's something so new for a lot of people, and you can just tell on all of their faces that they light up. Water's life, and we have big water fights and we celebrate together, and we really just we have fun with it. We let them dump water all over us. We dump it all over them. There's not really a limit to the joy.
Which I imagine is quite a stark contrast when you are carrying water for miles. You don't waste a drop of it, right? You don't let a drop of it go unused. But this, is a different experience for them, that it just is coming out of the ground right there. Yeah. You're not going and digging a well when you go there, right?
Absolutely not. We do not dig any wells. The company strongly believes that if we were to dig the wells, I don't know how to dig a well, so it'd probably be pretty awful. And also, I would leave in a week, and what if the well breaks down? Then I'm not there to fix it. So we hire people in Uganda to make these amazing wells, therefore they have the people there to fix them, and we're also supporting the economy in Uganda.
Yeah. Empowerment is the word you've already said, and I think it just will continue to be said as you tell this, but that's an example of it, right? Is empowering the people who live there, yes, instead of swooping in and somehow providing some service.
Yeah.
So wells are a significant part of the work. And then you said literacy centers.
Yes.
Tell us what these are.
So literacy centers are huge. Like I said, there's very little education for these mamas. So we got to open quite a few literacy centers. These literacy centers focus on everything from math, reading, writing, hygiene. So like, don't sleep with your goats. You have to wash your hands after you use the bathroom. You have to have a dish rack for your dishes to dry so they're not on the ground. We also go over model homes, and then they also have business training.
So this is one of the literacy centers here that has been built, right? Teresa, would you go to the next one? So this is, they're obviously learning vocabulary, right? Yeah. The next picture, I think, shows them learning math.
That is
Oh,
the
this is
model
it.
homes. So, yep, there are 10 steps to have a model home, a lot of which is focusing around hygiene. And yeah, so our staff there will work with the moms to make sure that they have a home that's safe for them and their children.
Yep. And then I think the next slide is math. Yep. And as you said, this is like really practical stuff. How do I go to the market and not get ripped off? I'm going to probably get ripped off if I don't know how to count money and do basic math or read. And so this is that, but it's also really inviting women to dream about how they might be self-sustaining by starting their own business, right?
So all of our women have to have their own business alongside of a community business. So they're in like these big cohorts, and they will all work together to form one business, and then they'll also try and sponsor their own business. These bigger groups, we have specialized training. So if a group wanted to keep bees, then we'll have beekeepers come in and teach them how to keep bees. If a group wanted a fishery, we'll have people come in and teach them how to make a fishery. So it's very specialized in that. So a lot of our business training, once they're through the basics, goes into specialized business training. And then also moms will learn to run their own. A lot of them will do silverfish. So they'll go and they'll travel to bigger markets and buy silverfish in bulk and then come home and sell at a smaller market.
Interesting, yeah. This is the literacy center still, yep. Full of people there to celebrate, yep.
Yeah. We opened our own literacy center this time. So a group of, I think there were 8 of us from ages 15 to 30, opened our own young-led literacy center. It's called New York. We're hoping to have it fully funded by young adults and teenagers. And we got to open their literacy center and meet all the moms. And we passed out notebooks. And it was a very symbolic thing. And like, it was just a notebook and a pencil. But it was so much joy. Like, there was just so much appreciation and joy. And like, they would sing for us and they danced for us and they made us skirts. And it just, I mean, I've never felt any type of joy like that here.
I think we have a video maybe of short, but I think we get the idea, right? This is something that I know you've wrestled with. I don't know if that's quite the right way to say it, but this experience of joy and as you just said, it is different than anything you have experienced here. What has that been like to wrestle with that and to experience that and then to come back here and not see or feel that maybe in the same way? What do you make of that?
So I think there it's very limitless. Like no one really holds back and is like, oh, well, what will they think of me? It's just like, I'm happy and I'm going to show it. And I'm thankful and I'm going to show it. And I have a large faith and I'm going to show it. I'm not going to like sit quietly with my head down and act like I don't feel anything. And also a lot of community-based, so they'll all empower each other. I mean, if someone's struggling, like, you'll get 10 people to hug you in 5 seconds. So, yeah.
Yeah, we have a friend who was born in Brazil and spent most of her life there until moving here relatively recently. And she talks about the lack of expression in this culture. And it just is what it is. But you leave it. I bet you probably didn't think that much about it before you went to Uganda for the first time. But then you go and experience something different. And again, it's a little unsettling or a little, it's disturbing in a good sort of way. Yeah.
Yeah, I still remember the first time I went, we had a conversation with our trip leader, and she was like, you have to let go. Like, you have to actually dance like nobody's watching, because nobody cares. Like, you just dance. And I think that stuck with me because I don't think you can fully feel your joy if you're holding back. I don't think you can just internalize it all and act like you're not feeling anything. We all have emotions, and we can all feel them so largely. And if we don't feel them largely, then we're not3sharing them. And I think that's a huge thing for these moms, is they want to share their joy and they want to share their love.
Yeah. We're going to talk about one of those moms in particular, but there was also something that you had shared with me, and we thought maybe it might be interesting to talk about it here. And that is one of the Sundays, I assume it was a Sunday, you went to a church there, right? Is Uganda, I don't know this, is Uganda largely, predominantly Christian? Okay, it is. So a couple of pictures, not many, but this is one of them, and then the next one I suppose I assumed is you getting off the bus or getting back onto the bus. Yeah, getting off.
Yeah.
And again, you're getting off a bus. Have you met this woman before?
Nope.
Yeah. Yep.
Nope, I think she pulled me off the bus.
Yeah,
so.
pulled you off the bus, yep. Yep.
Yeah.
What was that experience like? What was church like?
It was very different. I mean, the branch as a whole is already different than like a mass church, but last time I went, we went to a bigger church. This time it was a pretty small church. They hadn't really gotten a full permanent building yet, so we were in a smaller hut, very cramped, pretty dark, but it was hot and everyone was sweaty, but no one cared. I mean, people were sitting on the ground, filling in every space that they could. And again, instead of just sitting quietly and like acting like everything was fine, I mean, there was screaming and there was shouting and there was praise and there was so much more emotion than I feel like, I guess, is allowed here. Like, there's no judgment if someone were to stand up in the back and start singing right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a Congolese community who meets in this space right when we're done, and I'd invite you to hang around one Sunday. They would be happy to have you do that. In fact, you don't even have to stay until they start worshiping. They, I think, start officially at, I'm not even sure when, it's hard to pin down, but it's around 12:30, 12:30-ish. But by 11:40, 11:45, there's some people in here shouting, singing, this person's doing this person's doing something else. It will probably be an unfamiliar experience for you, but it might be really interesting at the very least, if not perhaps enlivening and inspiring.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say about that?
I don't know. I think it was one of the most God-filled rooms I've ever walked into. It was really powerful just to feel all of that. Like, you could really, the presence it was so welcoming and it was so loving that it was hard to sit there and not feel anything. I think like 99% of the people in there were bawling. So.
I think our kind of European Christianity, which we've inherited as a country, really was very, very leery of emotions, and that's such an understatement. And so we've grown up in a tradition now for hundreds and hundreds of years that has been, who has thought it was best to try and put our emotions to the side when we gather. And I think we sense or could imagine that there might be some downsides to that. But it is kind of our cultural inheritance, is that we don't come in fully ready to express what we may be feeling, good or bad. We're very careful about what we share. You experience something different than that. Yeah. All right, let's tell one more story here. There's a mom who, again, this woman who pulled you off the bus you had never met, but this woman, Miriam, right? Miriam. You do know, or you have some history, and you saw her again on this last trip. You had met her previously. Tell us about who she is. Tell us a little bit about her story.
So this is Marion. My mom has sponsored her and her literacy center for a while now. She is the head of her group, and she is one of the best heads that we have in the whole organization. She is she's so loving, and she's so welcoming.
Yeah, take your time.
She pulled in so many moms, and she empowers so many people, and she will kick your butt if you are not doing your work. She will keep you on task, and she will get you to class. So she pulled my sister and I off the bus this year, and immediately recognized us. I mean, I've only met her in person once, and so seeing her and her joy, she did not let us go. She hugged us so tight, and the joy in her eyes when she saw us was really unmatched. So she pulled us off the bus, and she said that I missed my daughters. And she pulled us into her home, where she had made 2 dresses for my sister and I. So from memory, she remembered our size and sewed us our own dresses with beautiful fabric. And she had a son about 5.5 months ago, named him after my dad, so baby Kevin. So we got matching dresses to baby Kevin's outfit. And she took us out of that house under her arms, and she told everyone, "These are my daughters. I love them so much. I'm so proud of them. Look at how gorgeous my daughters are. I love them. I'm so proud to have my daughters back." So seeing her and seeing the pride that she had in us just being us. We've never tried to show off to her. We've never tried to be more than we are with her. But yeah, for us to really be able to be authentically us and be so loved and so welcomed, and it truly feels like another mother.
This is Kevin, whose name in their language, right?
It's a girl's name.
It's a girl's name.
Yep. Yes.
And so when she named her son Kevin, others in her village were like, "What are you doing?"
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And she's pretty strong-willed. She does not care.
She didn't care.
That is my son.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So there's this, I think one thing that strikes me as I've listened to you today and as we've talked, prior to today, is the way in which you have been changed by this trip. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that, because this mutually, transformative relationship.
So that's a huge goal of these trips, is mutually transformative relationships. So yes, I worked this year to sponsor a mom, but also I then showed up and was given so much more than that. like so much more than I could ever have asked for. They're true relationships. It's really not one way, either direction.
Yeah.
Both of us work so hard. I mean, sure, I'm sponsoring a mom to go to class, but she's going. And she's working her butt off. And she's showing up, even if her baby's on her lap for class. She will be there. And then I get to show up. And they make me skirts. They give me an Ateso name. They love on me. And Marianne, truly feels like my Ugandan mom. Yeah. And it's hard to have relationships across the world because she's still there. And she wrote us a letter that she had been writing on all year round, little updates. So it's really cool just to see that even when I'm here thinking about her, she's back there thinking about me too. Yeah. So. Yeah.
This is, I think it's just an example of someone, you in this instance, and those who are on this trip with you, kind of leaning in to the unfamiliar. Whether it's dancing like no one can see you, or it's showing up to these places and trying to be as open as you can be. When I hear you share these stories, I think, oh, this is someone leaning in to the unfamiliarity and even the discomfort. I assume some of it is uncomfortable too. Is that true?
Mm-hmm. It's different. One day we went to play games with a bunch of moms, and they got to choose us for their teams. So we got off the bus, and they immediately wrapped scarves around our necks, and a lot of us thought we were going to choke. But then we were put on teams to play games, and it was really fun. So I think it definitely is scary and unknown, and a lot of us don't even know where the bus is going half the time. But you show up, and there might be water, or there might be singing, or there might be dancing. But there's always joy, and there's always so much to be learned that
Well, you by being up here today have also leaned into the discomfort, and it takes a lot of courage, no doubt, to get in front of a group of people and to share anything about your life. So thank you for doing it as well as you've done it today, as well as I knew you would do it today. Can we just thank Audri so much for doing the time? Thanks, Audrey. Appreciate it. And I want to invite us to just kind of end this little time here with these couple of questions. How does Audri's story intersect with my own? Where do I hear echoes of it in my experience? And you may say at first, I've never been to Uganda. My story is nothing like Audri's story. I would invite you to just sit with that question for a moment and see if perhaps there is something there. What can I learn from what Audri has shared today? What might you want to take away from what she has offered to us? So again, just a couple of moments here to think about that, to sit with that, and then we'll move into communion together. Up real quick, and I think we'll come back to them and put them up at the end as well. If you are interested at all in learning more about these literacy centers, you can click on either of these QR codes. We'll tell you more, but these are also links to donate. The reason there are two of them is because you have to be between the ages of 15 and 30 to do the one on the right. really, but really, kind of. This is that one that Audri briefly mentioned, that this group of young people are trying to raise the money for. It's the one that she visited while they were there and opened while they were there. So that's the New York one. I think they'll take your money anyway, but if you can also just donate to the one on the left, and that goes to literacy centers in general. So we'll put those back up at the end of the morning tour. Of course, you can ask Teresa or myself. But Teresa, why don't you transition us up to communion?
All that. Well done, Audrey.
Try it. It might
We
be
are so grateful for your story. I sat back crying half the time, so I'm okay. Great. What a beautiful testimony of stepping out. This isn't your first time there. You did it with your mom first, but now it was you and your sister traveling halfway across the world. So it's a big instance of stepping out into something that's not your norm, right? So I love how joy was such a theme. Even in the uncomfortable, that joy was the thing that came out. I think that oftentimes when we step into things that are uncomfortable and unknown, that sometimes we tend to push the emotions away, right? We tend to ignore those emotions, or they come up so strong that we don't know what to do with them. And I think having practices that ground us and root us in who we are really important for that. Communion is one way that we can do that. We come to this table nearly every week here in the branch, and Chris has said this 1,000 times. There's a different meaning every single time. It is so rich with meaning and tradition and memory, and it's something that we can come back to say, I might be facing something unknown or uncomfortable, but I'm going to walk up here and remember that I am loved. I am loved by the God of the universe, the God that created us, the God that holds all things together. I'm still crying, Audrey. That we can come back and root ourselves in love. So we invite you to do that today. This is an invitation to this table. All people are welcome at this table, no matter what. It's not an expectation we have here, though, so if you weren't prepared to come to this table today, or for whatever reason doesn't feel right, stay in your seat. That is perfectly fine with us, but you are welcome here at this table to remember you are loved, and maybe to experience some joy as somebody hands you a piece of bread and a cup with a smile. Maybe there's some joy that can be felt here too. I invite you to lean into the joy here this morning. So we're going to need a few volunteers. If you want to help serve communion, you are welcome to come on up here, and then we'll invite you all. We'll have a station up front and one in the back. Up front, there is a gluten-free option if that is what you need. In the back, there is just fully glutinous bread and cup in both of them. So if you would like to help serve communion, come on up here. Nolan, are you coming? Awesome. Mike's coming up. Katie's coming up. Wonderful, wonderful. Hi, Francie. Are you helping today too? I love it. Do you want to do the bread? She can hold the crackers, or other way, whatever. Anybody else want to help? All right. All are welcome at this table. Come and feel the experience of God's love and joy for you. One of my favorite things about the way we do communion is watching the kids serve the grown-ups, and grown-ups getting down to the level of kids. It's joy and it's beauty and it's community and it's lovely. So I invite you to take and eat, remembering the love that God always has for you. And as you eat it, may you feel rooted in love and joy and goodness. And as you drink this cup, remember that this is always something you can come back to. You can come back to God's love every single moment, no matter what situation you face. Take and drink. We'll send a basket around that you can put your cups in. It will make its way to you, I promise.
Yeah, we're gonna end the morning with just I suppose you could call it a practice of humility, of admitting that to lean into the discomfort is probably something that we might not be able to do on our own. Audri wasn't alone. In fact, we didn't even, I don't think, say out loud that your sister was with you. You did. You mentioned that the dress was made for her, but just, Kira was along. I imagine that was a really lovely thing. To step into the tension, it usually takes some help from each other, help from God. So I want to invite you to just consider for a moment what you might need. What might you need? The weeks and the months ahead, without question, are going to offer you moments and even sometimes seasons of unfamiliarity and discomfort. And when those moments come, in order to lean into them, I think we're going to need help. So how do you need help? Who might be able to help you? Is there a posture shift that needs to happen within your own heart in order to be open to help? Oh, man. Yesterday, I was downtown at 2 o'clock going to see a movie. And you may have known there was another event downtown yesterday. And when we pulled into the area that we were trying to get to, it was just a sea of red. The line to get into Van Andel was a half a mile long at 2 o'clock. And I had a mix of emotions in that moment. One was actually gratefulness in the sense that here's democracy. People coming peacefully without any violence or harm, physical harm to property or people, and they're gathering to voice and to show support for something they believe in. The part that was much more difficult for me was when I saw, for example, a gentleman with a shirt that said God, guns, and Trump. Or I saw a shirt with Jesus, the word Jesus, and then a bunch of pictures and then the word Trump. And my discomfort with that, the challenge for me in that, was the way in which religion and politics get mixed all together. And we hope that our politics will somehow bring about the world that we want, and we believe that maybe our political person of choice will deliver the future that we want. And Christianity can quickly get wrapped up in politics in a way that is very unhealthy, I would say. And so I was quite uncomfortable with that. And in other words, I felt discomfort, tension. And the immediate reaction I had to those feelings was wanting to distance myself from them. I don't like feeling uncomfortable. Thankfully, I was with a few other people. And those other people helped me be curious. I think curiosity is really important when you're uncomfortable. To ask questions. Why am I feeling this way? What about this moment is stirring up so much tension for me? Is there something I need to pay attention to, or something I need to think about more? What would it be like to be a person of kindness and compassion in this environment? Right? How do I love my neighbor in this moment? Those are questions of curiosity. And I think if we lean into those, we have the chance to be changed in these times of discomfort and unfamiliarity. So I'm back to that question. I think it's up here on the screen. What do I need? What do I need? And let me just invite us into a posture of humility as we close this morning. We often here at the branch talk about putting our bodies into a posture that allows us to be attentive, but also with our bodies perhaps signaling that we are willing to be humble. And so one posture we sometimes take is just simply sitting where we are, but opening our hands, placing them on our lap or holding them up slightly, and just letting this act of our bodies signal that we are trying our best to be humble and open. So whatever posture you might take this morning, whether it's that one or another, I'll ask you one more time, what do you need? When the uncomfortable situation happens at work tomorrow, when that tricky neighbor comes knocking, when your classmate says that thing that really just can rile you up, whatever the situation, what do you need in those moments? Courage, softness, curiosity, hope. What is it that you need? And can you ask God for that thing right now? And if you're aware of how another person might be a help to you, can you, when you leave this place, text them and say, hey, I need a hand. What do we need? God, would you help us to be humble? Would you show us what we need? Sometimes we like to try and not pay attention to those things. And then would you help us to ask for help or to lean in to each other, to lean into curiosity? We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Let's stand, friends, as I offer a blessing to you this week. We'd love to see you at the fire at the Herboldt house on Tuesday evening. I think we said 7:15 last week, but come whenever you want. They're not here, so I can say that. Just go over whenever you want, knock on the door. they'll gladly let you hang out. We'd love to see you there. We step into a world as we leave this place, and even here, sitting here, you may feel tension or uncomfortableness, or the angst of it all. May you be a person of peace this week. May you be a person of hope this week. May you be a person of curiosity and kindness. And in doing so, may you be someone who is changed and maybe even helps change the world. Be those people. Amen. Thanks for being here, everybody.